Dear students, I welcome you all to the class of English Compulsory, second year. In the previous class, we started with the textual explanation of the poem Love written by S.T. Coleridge. We came across first 8 stanzas in which the poet described his emotions, his feelings for his beloved. At the same time, we came across poet's glorification of his love, his beloved, and he begins the story of the love affair between the knight and the woman whom he loved for 10 years right from the core of his heart. But in return, the woman did not love him. So while listening to the song of the poet, his beloved, who was not at all sad at the beginning, she becomes sorrowful and she looks down and she expresses her sad emotions listening to the sad story of love between the knight and the woman. Today, in this lecture, we are going to deal with the textual explanation of the following 8 stanzas of this poem, Love, written by S.T. Coleridge. In this poem, there are 24 stanzas. Each stanza consists of 4 lines, and central idea of the poem is nothing but glorification of love. Today, we are going to deal with the 8 stanzas right from stanza number 9 to stanza number 16. I told her how he pined and the deep, the low, the pleading tone with which I sang another's love interpreted my own. She listened with a fleeting blush, with downcast eyes and modest grace, and she forgave me that I gazed too fondly on her face. But when I told the cruel scorn that crazed that bold and lovely knight, and that he crossed the mountains woods, nor rested day or night, that sometimes from the savage den, and sometimes from the dark some shade, and sometimes starting up at once in green and sunny glade, there came and looked him in the face an angel beautiful and bright, and that he knew it was a fiend, this miserable night, and that unknowing what he did, he leaped amid a murderous band, and saved from outrage worse than death the lady of the land. And how she wept and clasped his knees, and how she tended him in vain, and ever strove to expiate the scorn that crazed his brain, and that she nursed him in a cave, and how his madness went away when on the yellow forest leaves a dying man he lay. In stanza number 9, the poet tells his beloved how the knight languished for the love of the lady of the land. The song words which the poet used were indicative of his own deep feelings for his beloved. I told her how he pined and the deep, the low, the pleading tone with which I sang another's love interpreted my own. In the 9th stanza of the poem, the poet tells his beloved how the knight languished for the love of the lady of the land, and the song verses words which the poet used were indicative of his own deep feeling for his beloved. The poet's condition is similar with that of the knight, and he gives voice to his own love for his beloved in this way. Let us come down to the 10th stanza of the poem. She listened with a fleeting blush, with downcast eyes and modest grace, and she forgave me that I gazed too fondly on her face. The 10th stanza of the poem describes poet's beloved's graceful look. She is shy. As the poet looks at her face, she downcasts her eyes and she forgave him. And the poet is continuously looking at her face. Stanza number 11 and 12 now. But when I told the cruel scorn that crazed that bold and lovely night, and that he crossed the mountain woods, nor rested day nor night. The 11th stanza of this poem narrates to his beloved how, because of the lady of the land rejects the love of the knight, he advances. He, filled with the turbulent feelings of love, wanders aimlessly through mountain and forest, and he does not rest. He runs after his beloved, or he runs after the love and affection of his beloved. Stanza number 12, that sometimes from the savage den, and sometimes from the darkness shade, and sometimes from the darksome shade, and sometimes staring up at once in green and sunny glade. In the 12th stanza of the poem, the poet narrates to his beloved the knight's plight, the knight's sorrow, the knight's sadness, the extent of his sorrow on being rejected by his beloved. This rejection of his beloved makes him roam dangerously close to the savage animals or wild animals and dark places, and sometimes grassy open areas. Let us come down to the 13th stanza of the poem. There came and looked him in the face an angel beautiful and bright, and that he knew it was a fiend, this miserable night. In the 13th stanza of the poem, the poet describes how the knight is haunted by the thoughts of his beloved, whom he still loves. He has been rejected by her, but he has deep emotions for his beloved, and he is wandering in search of his love. And then he sees a beautiful angel, but to his horror realizes that it is not an angel but a fiend, an evil spirit. Fiend means evil spirit, perhaps the devil or the ghost. Wandering around, he comes across a beautiful face. He feels that it is angel, but actually it is not angel. To his horror, he realizes that it is nothing but a devil. Let us come down to 14th stanza of the poem. And that, unknowing what he did, he leaped amid a murderous band, and saved from outrage worse than death the lady of the land. In the 14th stanza of the poem, the poet narrates that the knight finds a band of evil men, or murderous band. Murderous band means evil-minded people. He describes how he confronts with those murderous band. He descends on his dangerous group and find they are trying to commit a crime worse than death to the lady of the land. He saves his beloved, but in the skirmish he gets wounded himself. In the 15th stanza of the poem, and how she wept and clasped his knees, and how she tended him in vain, and ever strove to expiate the scorn that crazed his brain. In the 15th stanza of the poem, the poet speaks about the woman who now weeps and holds on to the knight's knees as if begging for his mercy for her previous scornful attitude. She had rejected his love and affection. She had not considered his feelings for her, and when she was caught by the band of evil people, that time the knight intervened, he saved her, so she started feeling remorseful for her act of denying his love and affection. The knight knees as if begging for his mercy. So what happens? She weeps and holds on to the knight's knees as if begging for his mercy for her previous scornful attitude. She cries and thanks him for saving her. He remembers her earlier rejection and she has to now accept his changed attitude. She is the one now who has to accept the punishment of his negative and changed feelings for her and tries to rid him of them. In the 16th stanza of the poem, and that she nursed him in a cave, and how his madness went away when on the yellow forest leaves a dying man he lay. In the act of saving her from the evil-minded people, his arm was wounded. So, in the 16th stanza, the poet sees that the knight and the woman go into the cave where she nurses him. She binds the wound of the knight, and the knight is ill and he is dying. His ill opinion of the woman changes, but the story in the poet's song is very tragic. This is how we have come across 15th and 16th stanza of this poem. In the following class, we shall proceed ahead with the discussion of rest of the stanzas. With this, I would like to remain here. Rest of the things we shall continue in the next video. Thank you very much.